There are many secrets in the world. What was in that briefcase in Pulp Fiction? What did Bill Murray tell Scarlett Johansson at the end of Lost in Translation? And who did frame Roger Rabbit? I set out to solve the most important one of them all. What in the world is Kong King of Atlantis? Kong King of Atlantis was developed by Sky River Studios and published by Majesco Entertainment for the GBA in October 2005 to coincide not only with the release of Peter Jackson's King Kong, but also an animated film by the same name. Yeah, you never heard of this? Well, guess what? You are in for a ride with this gem. You see, Kong King of Atlantis, the movie, is about Kong, but not quite the one you remember. Yeah, this is more of a Skull Island kind of story where Kong's history is altered to fit the specific narrative. So, as the game tells it, Kong was killed on that fateful day on the Empire State Building, but then he was cloned? No, not just cloned. Cloned and then spliced with human DNA that made him stronger and more agile? But hold on, it gets even better. This new Kong has a cyber link with his human brother, a martial artist named Jason Jenkins. I can't decide if this is awesome or the dumbest thing I've ever heard. I think it's a bit of both. Oh, and don't forget, we haven't even gotten to the King of Atlantis part of the title yet. An ancient prophecy starts to come true as the sunken city of Atlantis begins to rise. I mean, Kong is no stranger to coming in contact with other creatures and beings from mythology in the world of kaijus. But Atlantis? And the Atlanteans are reptiles? They're Sneeple? Queen Reptilia wants to use Kong to unite the other warring Atlantean kingdoms for her own evil gains. Hey, wait a minute. Didn't I just see this on the big screen a few weeks ago? Oh yeah, I did. It was called Vice. Anyway, it's a race against time, and Jason must convince Kong that Reptilia is evil so that they can save the islands of Kong. But wait a minute. If Jason has a cyber link with Kong, can't he get into Kong's head and make him leave Atlantis? Or just get in there and talk some sense into him? I need to see the movie to understand this Game of Thrones depth of lore. The first thing you'll notice about the controls is that this game commits one of the cardinal sins of gaming: B jumps and A kicks. No punches. These characters went to leg day. It just feels wrong. Some of my favorite games like Max Payne and Indiana Jones and the Emperor's Tomb do something along the same lines, but that's because they have a wide range of controls outside of just a simple jump and punch. In King of Atlantis, it's so noticeable because B and A are pretty much all you use. I can't think of many, if any, times at all that I even use the L or R buttons. It's one of those games where you just keep moving right, jump over stuff, punch stuff the best you can. And that being said, the controls are pretty floaty, with you landing just a little ahead of where you intend to. You eventually get used to this, but it doesn't have the precise physics of, say, a Mario game. What really feels off, though, is the combat. Your punches and kicks have to be pretty much pixel perfect to hit enemies, while they can hit you at pretty much any angle whenever they feel like it. The first level is unforgiving, all things considered. The first time I played it, I ran out of lives at least once because I wasn't working on conserving my health, and these little Audrey 2 goo tentacles that would come out and smack me around while I was trying to figure out how to hit them back. When you get a game over or quit though, you get this amazing picture of Kong looking like he just watched the Cinema Sins Skull Island video. Once you get into the rhythm of combat and health conservation, the game gets a bit easier, and you can make it to the Kong stages. The only real difference between Kong and Jason stages is that Kong has a farther reach when he throws punches, and enemies that were once Jason's size are now up to Kong's torso at most. If anything, this game does nail the scale of Kong, and makes you feel more powerful when you play as him versus when you play as Jason. There are about 15 levels in the game, and while most of them will blend together and feel similar by which world you're in, there is some interesting variety a bit later on, like when you're running through Atlantis and flipping switches. It reminded me a bit of the museum level in Mysterio's Menace, where you have to remember where you've been and trek back and forth. It's almost like these games were attempting to utilize Metroidvania mechanics, and hey, I can't fault them for that. What I can fault them for is the Atlanteans' choice of door placement. I mean, just look at that. Can't Lua just walk around it? The first couple levels are set in the jungles of Kong Island, where you just kinda go from left to right, punching things until you reach Jason's cyberlink device that will connect him to Kong. The second set of levels have you escorting one of Queen Reptilia's nobles to Atlantis as Kong. I don't know how, and I don't know why, but they somehow made an escort mission in this GBA game. Points for variety. After that, you play as Lua for a bit, who is apparently the shaman of Kong Island and the last surviving member of the natives from the original King Kong? Points for originality? She controls pretty much exactly like Jason, so there's not a whole lot to mention with her control-wise. You continue to play as Lua as you reach Atlantis, and like I mentioned earlier, this was probably my favorite part of the game. The backgrounds for the first few stages were a little headache-inducing, looking like it was moving with your character rather than providing the backdrop for them, but the backgrounds for the Atlantis levels look pretty neat, almost like a Lost Indiana Jones game. To finish off this Atlantis section, you take on a reptilian boss in the throne room, which you can beat by just mashing the attack button in front of it. You'll defeat them faster than they defeat you. At least, that's what happened the first time I played, when I wasn't recording. More importantly though, who's that guy on the throne in the back?
Reality can be whatever I want.
In the final stage, Kong finally snaps out of it and fights back against the Atlanteans. You have to punch the mechanisms controlling the doors to trap these lizard people before they can come out and reenact Gulliver's Travels with their now tiny swords and spears.
Whoa, looks like somebody's been overfeeding the fish.
Then finally, you play as Jason again to take on Queen Reptilia. This battle isn't as simple as the one with the Reptilian General. Also, you're not playing as Lua, so you can't just pummel Reptilia with her incredible strength. Now think back to when you clicked on this video. What was going through your head? Oh, this is a King Kong game. I bet King Kong will do some cool stuff and beat the monsters at the end. Not, the final boss is going to be King Kong's cyber-linked teenage friend versus the Queen of the Sneeple in the city of Atlantis in a kung fu duel to the death. You have to dodge her attacks and run in to punch her when you get an opening. It's all but impossible to dodge her when she starts ramming into you with her sled or high-tech chariot or whatever she's riding. I'll be honest with you, I don't have the patience or the interest to beat this boss. So here's this instead. Ooh, yeah, look at that. Strong. Absolute monster. This Lua's strong. So maybe it's just because I've gotten accustomed to the controls, but I think this game's growing on me, which is really weird. It's either that or I just love how absolutely insane it is. Check out Kong, King of Atlantis if you want to, or just go watch Skull Island again. Ooh, look at the size of him, monster. Ooh, look at the size of absolute monster. King of Atlantis was actually a movie released 4 years after the end of Kong the Animated Series, which means it was most likely the long-awaited conclusion to that series. Kong the Animated Series actually had a run of 40 episodes, which sounds crazy considering I feel like I know more pilots that were never made, but I don't know about this fairly sizable show until I just researched it. Maybe one day I'll go through and talk about the animated movie and the episodes that led up to it so I can fully understand this game. So yeah, thanks for watching the second episode of Written by Brandon. I've had a really great time making these first couple episodes and just working on the roadmap of what I'm gonna do for the next couple episodes as well. Like if you liked this video, subscribe to see more like it, comment below if you remember Kong, King of Atlantis, or if there's any other games that you want me to check out, and subscribe to my other channels, which are Maddie and Brandon, and Spelled Out, which is where my girlfriend and I do couples vlogging, and my girlfriend's channel, Madeline Rose, where she does fashion vlogs and just vlogs of all kinds with her sisters. Thanks for watching again, and see you real soon. If I knew how to properly use licensed music, I would spin this around and then loop it and just play Snake Eater over it.
Oh, okay.
What a thrill. Fear in my heart. that you're so supreme. I'd give my life